those who may not know who I am, my name is Michael Eley. I'm Junior, and on the other side, we have Senior.
I'm seeing you.
I'm
How you
Junior,
doing?
Senior, and so I came from him, and I'm so glad that I'm here. The Lord gave me a vision called Outpour, and it really started uh, blossoming on the campus of Hampton University. And now that I've graduated on years out, coronavirus has stepped in, and everything that we have known to do has totally been shifted, has totally been altered. And so, what we do on Thursday nights is an event called Think Tank Thursdays. And so, with Think Tank Thursdays, sometimes it's spiritual, most times it's not. We bring in different guests, and we want to be able to talk about different topics that are important. And so tonight, I'm so happy. I'm so happy to have my father on with us. I'm telling you, you're not going to want to miss this. For those who are coming in, I need you to do me that big favor and hit that share button because there is about to be a wealth of wisdom that is going to be shared. Again, as you're coming in, hit that share button and let us know where you're watching from. And let's go ahead and let's hop into the conversation. All right, here we go, Dad.
All right.
So
Let's
first
get
of all, how you doing today?
doing good. It's been a busy week, as you know, but we're doing good. It's a good time to sit back and refresh a little bit and relax and have a conversation with you so the world can view what goes on behind closed doors sometime here in the Eley's household.
Sometimes or all the time?
So I'll just say all the time, but we're gonna just share a little bit tonight. So,
All right. So let's just hop straight in. So when you hear the word fatherhood, for those who are coming in, this session is called like father, like son. If you didn't pick it up by now, he's senior and I'm junior. When you hear the word fatherhood, what do you think of?
Wow, that's a really deep question because it's so many ways I can go with that. The first thing I think about is I think about a relationship, and that's the relationship between father and son or daughter. But what comes out of it immediately is compassion. We must, as fathers, we must show compassion at all times for our kids. And I guess somebody might be saying, why would he say compassion? Because just because someone is a child of a father, they may not always get along. They may not have the best of relationships. So, so regardless how you approach someone, you approach them with compassion. And then I think the other thing I see in fatherhood is integrity, and that integrity part comes back to me as a father, as a role model. So integrity, compassion. I see also protection. I must be able, as a father, I think as a general rule, you must be willing to protect your offspring, and protection from a physical standpoint, protection from a mental and psychological standpoint. So that's just on the surface, and I'm quite sure there's so much more in there.
Yeah. What would you say that that protection, right, is something that is innate, or do you think that that's something that you picked up along the way from watching examples, maybe even from your father, my grandfather?
Yeah. Well, I believe that protection from a male, and especially a father, is an innate quality. Because one, you are You are a part of me. You are my flesh. You're my blood. And it's natural to protect something that's valuable to you. And see, so yeah, that's just an innate quality that I believe that all fathers possess. It's just innate. We are protectors. We are hunters by nature, you know. So yeah. So what do you think about if when you look at fatherhood? What's your image of a father? What's your idea of fatherhood?
Yeah. Well, first of all, this is not our way of saying that I got a child on the way, so I'm not.
No, no.
I'm not a father to be. So please, saints, come on.
No, no,
Let's
no.
not.
I want them. I want someone else to hear your. So often we as parents we develop our own thought process based off of our views, our worldview, our culture, how we grew up, and it's just interesting to hear it from your perspective, being the child.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
just want to
You
hear
know,
that.
you know, I would say that it goes so much deeper than just the physical, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, anybody, if you do what it takes to become a father, you will automatically become a father. But you know, I automatically think of responsibility, which is encompassed by all of those things that you said, and so much more.
Yeah.
You know, I think what should always be at the forefront, on top of providing, is being an example,
Mm-hmm.
because leading is more than just, hey, you know, I'm just going to tell you what to do. But leading at least should be, I'm going to also show you what to do,
Right.
because
That's good.
sometimes we don't always, people in general, it's in our nature that we don't always follow what we hear, but we most times will follow what we see.
Yeah, that's true.
And
That's
so
true.
if you can show me a way and tell me the way, then I
Yeah.
know it works. Because my generation, at least this is something that I'm finding out, is that so many times we don't want to just hear you say it. Talk is
Mm-hmm.
cheap, but
Yeah.
we want to be able to see you execute. And when we
Right.
see you execute, it makes it easier to follow.
Yeah, and that's good. That plays right into what I said about integrity. Integrity goes a long way. One, um, it matches up with what you say, and also it should match up what you do.
Absolutely.
And you should always conduct yourself in an honorable way. So if you have honor and you have integrity, I think that is a good roadmap for showing how a person execute. So, in other words, when you say you're going to do something, you do it. It costs to be a leader, and a
Yeah.
leader has to sacrifice. And so that's part of it, that integrity and setting those good examples. But also too, as I listen to you, one of the things that I think back on in becoming a father, when you become a father, you're always evolving. So fatherhood is not just a station in life, but it's a journey, because you are becoming. We, for example, when you were small, I had to advise you and protect you in one way that was appropriate for your age. And then as you grow into adolescent, I have to talk to you and show you examples and protect you in a different way. And then as you become a man, you're into manhood. I have to change the way that I uh, help you navigate uh, this world and life by giving you the right advice for age appropriate situations. So as fathers, and the whole journey of fatherhood is becoming. So we're always becoming. I like I say, it's a journey, not just one station at life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. For those who are just coming in, we need you to hit that share button. We're getting ready to go deeper. So come on, go ahead, take a moment and hit that share button as well. Like something, like this post, say hey to us so we can acknowledge you. I see Adrian Bullock is on. I see Sadea is on. I see Miss Jean is on. Miss Phillips is on from Eagle
Amen.
Rock. So good to see y'all. So look, what one of the things that we can't help but to do, we have a family of preachers, we have a family of saints, but imagine being in a house where you have two licensed preachers and one bootleg one. So you can
Be careful.
You got two licensed preachers, or one ordained. I'm licensed because I guess they ordained me yet. I don't know why. And then we have the bootleg one downstairs, and a big part of what we do is philosophy, right?
Yeah.
We're always thinking things through, and so with that, I kind of want to walk the people through, which y'all are getting access to some wonderful information, but just insight as to who we are. I can remember probably, well, I won't say the earliest lesson, but a lesson that has always stuck with me from my most formative years was in sports. I can remember you always wanted me, and for those who don't know, I am an only child. You always wanted me to play some type of sport. And so I kind of went through, if I remember correctly, I kind of went through doing a whole bunch of different things. I
Yeah.
played tennis with some people in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
I think I did golf through like a first tee program or something like that. I did football. That was not for me at all. I never tried basketball because I just couldn't grip the ball right. But
Yeah.
the sport that I found that really worked for me, and is really a generational sport that I found out later on, was baseball.
Yeah.
And I think one of the most powerful lessons from baseball that I've shared before is you always said in past baseball and sports in general, you always said, listen, you don't have to always like it,
Right.
but if you start something, you gotta see it through.
Yeah.
Because I think so many times it's really easy, especially when people have a little privilege or more privilege than their parents. They start something, they say they don't like it, and then they just boom, let it go, move on, all of that stuff. But I think that was something really important that you instilled in me from a young age that still leads me and guides me today. Is that
Right.
something that you can speak on real quick?
Yeah. That philosophy is pretty simple. One thing we have to, especially being a black male, we can't quit. We don't have many times as a black male, you don't have the option to quit when you start things. And so I think that's where I drew that philosophy from, because you don't know what's going to be your tipping point, and you don't know what's going to be that bridge that cross you over into success. So so my philosophy was, if you start something, you have to finish it, because you don't know where it's going to take you. Even if you're not the best at it, you're going to learn from it. You're going to understand what it means to persevere. You're going to understand what it means to be at the bottom in doing something you're not your best at. So that builds character. But when you go through pain and frustration and you can get through the other side of it, you build self-confidence. And so that's part of it. And then the other part, well, you won't gonna waste my money.
Okay.
No, look, we keep it real, right? You're not gonna, but that's just part of it. You you're not gonna waste my money. No, but seriously, all the things I've said, you have to fight through the difficult times, and that prepares you for life. And sports is a good way to understand um, how to have discipline, how to get along with others, especially a team sport, how to take the ups and downs that come your way, even if you're not the catalyst to those downturns. You have to be able to compromise with others. So that's part of the reason why we said you start something, you have to finish it. And it's just like we expose you to playing musical instruments, and
Absolutely.
you found out that you had a gift in that. But the whole idea was, if we start lessons, you're going to have to finish it, and finishing it is going to that recital.
To the recital, right?
Yep. So, and that's how it starts. But also too, it helps shapes you. It just helps shapes you overall to have a different view of life. Like you said, so many people start things and it get difficult and they just drop it. So you can't do that. So you can't do that. And I think part of that process of finishing difficult things, it increases your mental fortitude. As Black men, we have to be strong mentally, more so physically, because you can get tired physically, but if you can stay strong mentally, you can overcome some of the worst situations that you encounter, even if it's physical. If your mind is strong enough, you'll be able to have an advantage, especially later on in life. So, and that's the other thing that we've always taught you, to be strong mentally, and we always allow you to have a voice at whatever stage of life that you were in, with the proper correction. So,
and let's hop into that. So, yeah, with having a voice, there's always been open communication.
Yeah.
I mean, tell me why you think that's important.
Well, couple of reasons. I think growing up in a rural area, growing up during the era that I grew up, children was seen and not heard. And I grew up under that. And to each his own if you're raised like that, but I just believe we need to take every opportunity to make it a teachable moment and to learn, because your view at that time, if you're small and you have your own view of something, it may not be the correct view. So we don't want the world teaching you something where your mom and I could teach you the proper way. So, and the only way for me to get understand your perspective is to have you to communicate to me and express something that you may like or dislike. And from there, we can shape and direct you in the way you should go. So it goes right back to the biblical principle: train up a child in which the way you should go. So so that's all of the training. That's part of training.
Right. Yeah. I think what else is really big on that within open connection is open communication is open access, because you all have given me access to rooms and to doors that maybe young people might not have necessarily been in. Right. And so not for me to necessarily say something, but for me to sit back and listen, because we know that one of the greatest ways to learn something is to be exposed. Exactly. And so that having that exposure to different levels that are greater than where we are, so that we can operate on that level one day.
Yeah. Yeah, and that goes back to having a worldview. I know when you were in high school, I used to always tell you, I want you to have a worldview. I want you to view situations and current events based off of a worldview. And I know you may not have traveled around the world or been to different places or culture, but you could start having a different way of looking at it. For example, instead of just looking at a situation from the way you were raised, look at it from another person's lens. Look through the lens of someone that might be less fortunate than you. Look through it through the lens of someone that's richer. Look through the lens of someone that may be living in a remote area. So then, as you start to see in your own through your own lens how things are different for you, you can have more compassion for other folks, and you're not so quick to jump and have a judgment or prejudice against someone because somebody didn't do something the way you did it or thought it should be done. So all of it is by design. You got to have a worldview, especially in the world we're living in now with the internet, communication happening in nanoseconds, and we have to just look at things differently now.
Absolutely. All right. So let's talk about the spiritual side for a moment.
Sure.
Both of us, we're preachers. You started preaching, I want to say you got licensed in like 2008.
Yeah, something like that. Yep.
Something like that. And then I was licensed before I left for school. So either 2013 or 2014, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that sounds
14.
right. Yeah. And so there were some things that I watched. And though we're both preachers, but we both live in the same house, we have the same last names. I think though a lot of our thinking and philosophy is the same, I think our approaches to ministry are a little different.
Mm-hmm.
And for that, I appreciate because sometimes what I've kind of seen in more of the traditional models of a father and son, and both of them are preachers. Of the father is, the son is kind of a spitting image of the father, but we're kind of on two different ends of the spectrum, which I really appreciate. And so let's hop into that. For those who might not know, what you should know by now, this guy's a pastor, right? In January, he started, and the church that I currently am employed at. Our churches are about 15 minutes down the street from one another. And so many times in this church culture, we see it where people are competing. Maybe it's on purpose, maybe it's not, but people are competing. And so I would never forget for about the first month, as the news was getting out, that you had received the call to be the pastor at New Bethel. The news and people were coming to me saying, "So I got a question for you, Mike." I said, "Sure." And they asked, "So when you're leaving?" Right? And it really threw me for a loop, because people automatically assume that just because you became a pastor or working in ministry at your own work that God assigned you to, that automatically that's where I was going. Right. Speak to that. Where's our mind when it comes to the things of the kingdom?
Right. Well, God has called all of us to some type of ministry. And so you have to respect his calling, and you have to have the faith that people will walk in their calling. So by you being my son and by me watching you grow up and having a heart for God and doing the things of God at an early age, it's not my calling to pull you out of an environment that you might learn some things that's valuable for you that you might not get in my ministry. And not saying that you won't get anything from the word, but there's a progression that you're going to have to go through. There's some things that you may have to learn from other people that's going to complement your ministry down the road. number one, you always have access to me. Number two, you always have the opportunity to be a part of the ministry God has called me to be. So, so my thing is, I got to do what God tells me to do in terms of continue to shape you, continue to work with you when it comes to ministry and to the call of ministry. We can't be selfish. It's not a competition. The competition really lies in how many souls can we as spiritual leaders get to Christ. It's kingdom work.
Yeah.
It's not the work of just one church of how many people you can bring in, but is what can we do for the kingdom collectively? Because God is going to send those people that that I need to bring into the kingdom. He's going to send them my way. Only I can reach them. You won't be able to reach them. You know, so some things are just preordained for us.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think what you said there is real important. Is that what is kingdom work?
Yeah, kingdom work.
It's kingdom work, and it's not just about the individual ministry. And
Yeah.
so I think as well something on the spiritual side that has always been that you all or you in particular have always ingrained is about Galatians 6:9 of not being weary in well doing, for in what in due season you shall reap if you faint not. And sometimes I think if we can just be honest, I mean, come on now, if we can just be honest, it gets tiring doing the right thing. Because it's like, man, I'm looking around, I see folk who not living right. I see folk who not doing right, and it seems like they're in their due season. Right. And it's like, you know, God, what in the world is going on? But then when God opens that door, when God gives you that harvest, that season, you're like, man, I'm so glad that I kept doing right. I kept being faithful. Come on, can you speak to that?
Yeah, most definitely. One of the things that I think a lot of people that's coming into ministry, and God may have already spoken to them about being a pastor or a leader or co-pastor in a church. You know, just because he spoke it and you heard it, it doesn't mean it's your season. Like you said, it's due season. Because I ran from the call of God, of ministry. Even when we were in Virginia, I knew the calling was on me. I ran. I thought I was going to run to North Carolina and get away from it, even though in my heart I knew I couldn't get away from it. So I ran for many years. But going back to the point of doing the right thing, and your season would come. I worked under other pastors and leaders. I served faithfully behind the scene for many, many years. And God will elevate you in time. But that goes back to what I said earlier, integrity. Always have integrity. It's hard to do the right thing. It costs to do the right thing. But you have to be honorable. You have to show honor in what you're doing to God. God sees it. God knows your heart. And looking at how things came about, me being the pastor of New Bethel, I was busy working in another ministry, not even doing pulpit ministry, not even doing preaching ministry. But I still knew I had the call of God on my life to pastor one day. And so I just had to continue to do what God called me to do, and that was to serve wherever he put me at the time. And he'll elevate you. And then that way, nobody can get the glory but him. God's get all the glory for where he places you. And that's the beauty of it. Man can't take credit for it. It's ordained by God. So God will honor you. And he honors you openly. It's not hidden in the closet. It's not hidden only where you can see it. He honors you openly.
Right. When you don't take the shortcuts.
When you don't take the shortcuts.
When you don't do what everybody else is doing.
Right. When you don't have to play politics.
Oh.
You don't have to play politics.
Yeah.
You know, you just be who you are and true to the word of God.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Mm-hmm. 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 That's good. That's good. Well, look, we got a few more minutes. I know you're a busy man. You don't want to talk too long, so I'm not going to hold you this whole time. But, you know, I do want to ask maybe 2 or 3 pieces of what you would call timeless advice, different things that, or maybe even stories, some illustrations for this advice you could share that you would share to anyone. Maybe when it comes to father-son relations, you know, maybe when it just comes to building yourself up as a strong man or person, anything.
Sure.
What's
Sure.
2 or 3 pieces timeless advice you could share?
I think the most important thing that we as fathers can do in front of our children is to continue to keep an open door, and don't open the door and be prejudging. Let that loved one come to you and speak openly, and then maybe you can guide them in the right direction. So many times we make mistakes by not listening to the whole story, getting the whole narrative of what they might be trying to say. And as fathers, we got to be the one to be quick to forgive and restore. You know, it's one thing to forgive, but it's another thing to restore, to let that person know that everything's all right. You made a mistake. We're gonna brush it off, and we're gonna start again. I mean, it's, you know, fathers. If we look at the way Christ give us grace and mercy, we have to extend that same grace and mercy to our children, to other people that we might be mentoring, people that we come in contact with daily. We have to be able to show compassion. I think it's not enough compassion in the world today. So that would be one of the things that I see that's going on. And be quick to forgive. Be the bigger person. Like I said, it always costs to do the right thing. It costs you more to do the right thing. To do the right thing.
That's good. That's all you got?
That's all I need to say, because you know, I mean, simple things are some of the hardest things to do, and sometimes we make life too complex. So simplify things, you know, and we can go back to compassion and love and forgiveness, and like you said, setting examples. I think we'll go a long way as fathers.
Absolutely.
So what as a young man growing up in the house, you're very fortunate to have a father around. I know a lot of folks don't have fathers around that's active. What advice can you pass on to some of your peers, especially of your age group and younger, when it comes to fatherhood?
I'll do it from the position of sonship. Okay. You don't always have to agree.
That's right.
God's almighty. I know for myself, I don't agree with everything. You know, we don't see things the same all the time, but we shouldn't, right?
Right.
Because that's how we grow. That's how we get more done. That's how we reach more people. That's how we're ultimately the most effective. So you don't always have to agree, but you should always respect.
That's right.
Right. You don't always have to agree, but you should always respect. and respect is that. Especially for young men, never be too puffed in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Never have so much ego that you can't come back and admit when you're wrong.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, again, because life is perspective.
Mm-hmm.
We always hear people saying, yeah, hindsight is 2020. There
Mm-hmm.
are certain things that you're not going to see in the moment. And the
Mm-hmm.
reality is, especially like an age gap, between
Yeah.
a father and a son, or a father and a daughter, then what happens? There are some things that you've already been through.
Right.
Seen it,
That's right.
done that already. You got the t-shirt, the mug, and the hat.
Yeah.
And so with that, sometimes you just have to be able to say, you know what, maybe he's right about this one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or even when you fight and you say, he don't know what he's talking about. This is different from when he was growing up. And when you come back and find out that at least some elements of what he was saying was correct,
Yeah.
don't be so big that you can't come
Mm-hmm.
back and admit that you were wrong.
Yeah.
And then lastly, I think that I would leave just honor.
Yeah.
Right? I think it can be easy that you can look up to other maybe examples and
Mm-hmm.
things like that, especially your maybe even aspirations, but you have to honor even with what God has given you, who
Yeah.
God has given you, because if nothing else, it's the secret to long life.
Yeah. That's it.
I
That's
mean,
it.
if nothing else,
Yeah.
it's the secret to long life. But you should do it because there's always somebody else who
Mm-hmm.
wishes that they could be in your shoes.
Yeah.
As much as I mean, not me, but as much as you might wish you could be in someone else's shoes, there's always somebody else
Yeah.
who wish that they could be in your shoes. To
That's
the
right.
person who says, "Well, my father's around, but he's not the best." Well, at least he's around.
Yeah.
There's somebody who's like, "I don't have one.
Mm-hmm.
Mine never had wanted to have anything to do with me. Mine has gone on from this life to the next. At
Mm-hmm.
least they're around, right?
Yeah.
I think about that song. That's I'm sure we're gonna hear at least 1,000 times between Thursday."